what I was gonna say is the perspective that I think is interesting because a lot of people don't talk about it because I think a lot of times people talk about streaming as a bad thing because it's pennies on the dollar, not even pennies on the dollar, like 0.003, Spotify.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, you see value in streaming.
For sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that and why?
For sure. Like, just look at the finance companies that have gotten involved in the music industry. Like, finance companies don't get involved in industries where there's no money, right? And there's typically pretty smart people at these finance companies, and it's provide an alternative financing method for artists, right? Like, if you have healthy streaming, you could potentially go to a company like BeatBread or some of these other companies to see what the advance you can get on your existing streams and compare that to the deal that your a label was going to give you. And you potentially have the option to stay independent, keep your masters, and keep rocking. And, you can continue to re-up and get more of an advance on your existing royalties, or eventually sell it. I know that some people say you should never sell your music, blah, 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 but they were given like 15 time multiples a few years ago, like 10, 15. I'm like, bro, there was a kid who made, I think, like $100,000 a year streaming, and they were gonna give him $1 million. I was like, bro, there's gonna be decay on these streams, but even if there wasn't, they're giving you 10 years worth of your royalties now.
Yeah. And it was like super early, the 100. Oh, so it wasn't even normalized.
Yeah. So I'm like, why? Like, if you got other things you want to do, you want to invest in some real estate, because it's not like, well, it also depends on what you're gonna do with the money too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could, if you have something else you want to invest in, that might offer a better return than your royalties would have offered you.
Yeah.
So it just depends. Again, everybody's in a different situation. You got to be able to, analyze the deals in front of you and take into account all the different variables. And does it make sense for you?
Right.
And what your long-term strategy is.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing as well is a lot of people, they'll hear the big price tag of like soul catalog for 100 million, 150 million, 500 million when it comes, I think it was Bruce Springsteen. But like there's other deals that are happening that are much lower, and you're an artist that's younger. Just because you sell a catalog doesn't mean you can't build another catalog.
Yeah, you can keep rocking.
Exactly.
You can keep rocking. So I don't advise. I mean, it's not a blanket statement like everybody should sell their catalog.
Yeah.
It's a case by case.
Yeah.
What is the deal that they're giving you? What is your long-term goal? But they were given pretty good deals. I don't know what they are now. I think some of the deals are solid even to today. Like
it's still 10, 12.
Yeah.
X, like, I mean, pre-interest rates going up, I knew deals that were like 23, 24X.
Yeah, they were up there, bro. They were up there. So, yeah, streaming has introduced that possibility if you're able to get traction. Now, I know it's hard for most artists to get traction via streaming, but it's always been hard for artists to get traction in any era, right? Like, if you were just slinging CDs out of your trunk, 20 years ago, it was going to be hard to sell enough CDs to eventually make a living, right? If the iTunes era, it was hard. Like, it's always hard because there's so many artists that want to do this.
Yeah.
There's more music getting released than there are minutes in the day to listen to all this music. So, of course, most of the music on Spotify is not going to have a single play. There's 100,000 songs plus getting released every day. So I understand why there's more people frustrated and mad, because this industry was never designed for everybody to win. So there's always going to be people upset because most people aren't winning. So I get it. But don't start, and I have my problems with Spotify. I always want artists to make more money, right? But Spotify to me has supplied the closest thing to a regular paycheck for an artist, like, because it's pretty consistent. Like, if you start doing numbers, like, it's pretty consistent from month to month.
Yeah.
That's why these finance companies are able to analyze these streams over a certain period of time and predict, how it's going to perform and give you an advance based on their prediction.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
And to not to confuse an advance that a label will give you where you have to pay back. That just means they'll give you an advance on what the streams are going to do in
Yeah.
the future. That's your money. You never have to pay that back. But
yeah.
you're selling your copyrights.
But you can, there's like
Yeah.
Beat Bread, you can just get an advance on it. You can decide,
So I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can decide, okay, I just want you to license my catalog for 3 years. You can license your catalog for a year.
Okay.
You can determine what length of time you want to license your catalog. You can determine what percentage of your catalog you want to you can license half of it for a year. Obviously, you're not going to get as much as if you license it for 10 years, but if you only need a little bit of money, then maybe you license it for a shorter period of time.
Okay.
You can determine that.
With Beat Bread.
Yeah.
So how do you get connected with Beat Bread? Do they got to come
like
here?
Two Lost has a great relationship. So Beat Bread is a standalone company, but we also do a lot of our deals in partnership with Beat Bread at Two Lost.
Okay.
Or if you want the max amount of money, then you sell your catalog.
Right.
It just depends on what your existing financing needs are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So but streaming has allowed for that to even be a possibility.
Wasn't happening before when it was just physical.
Yeah, and I think I don't have the numbers in front of me now, but the market for music has grown since I don't know where it was with like iTunes and things. We're now back. We're not back in the CD era, but like it's growing. More artists. There's more independent artists today than there ever have been.
Oh, by far, and doing well.
That's the biggest metric to me. It's like, how many independent artists are there that are making a living doing music?
Yeah.
If there's more today, then artists are figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just more creators trying today because music has become easier to make, easier to distribute. So you have more people calling themselves artists. Mm-hmm. And again, most people aren't winning, so there's going to be frustration, and they're the people going to the comments, and because they're the majority, they're going to be the loudest about Spotify ain't shit.
Right, right.
But that narrative, and again, I think there are improvements Spotify needs to make. I think his messaging oftentimes is terrible. Daniel Ek. Yeah, I think his messaging to artists is sometimes very terrible.
Yeah.
And the new news in which they struck some deal with UMG, which is going to give them higher royalty rates. I don't know exactly how that works, but that kind of sounds like that sucks for independent artists. The not paying out songs that are under 1,000 streams.
Yeah.
I don't like it. That seems like a handout to the majors, but
in many ways, because the pro rata affects them more than anything else. To my understanding, I don't.
But also, but if your song doesn't hit 1,000 streams, we're talking about like a few dollars.
Yeah.
So again, the people that are complaining, it's not like they would have been winning in any other era. It's like it's a lot of I would say 90% of the artists that were winning before should be winning today.
Yo, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, it's just the folks that are complaining that wouldn't have been winning in any era.
Yeah, exactly.